Ladies and gentlemen, happiness is not found in chasing the illusions that society places before us. It is not hidden in possessions, in fleeting pleasures, or in the approval of others. True happiness arises when we dare to look within, when we stop running from ourselves and confront the deeper truths of our own soul. Each of us carries an inner world, vast, mysterious, and often unknown. Within it lies both light and shadow, the strengths we celebrate and the fears we try to hide. To deny these hidden parts is to live half a life, forever restless, forever searching, but to accept and integrate them is to begin the journey toward wholeness. And it is in wholeness that happiness is born, not as a shallow smile, but as a profound harmony of being. Purpose, too, is not something granted from outside. It is not written in the expectations of others or measured by achievements. Purpose is discovered in the dialogue with the self. It whispers through our dreams, through the symbols and images that rise from within, guiding us to what is truly ours to live. The truth about happiness and purpose is this: they are not destinations but processes of becoming. To live authentically, to embrace both our light and our shadow, to listen to the voice within, this is the path that leads us toward meaning. When we walk this path, happiness is no longer fragile, dependent on circumstances. It becomes a state of inner alignment, born from living the life that is uniquely ours. And purpose ceases to be a question, because our very being becomes the answer. So, the task before each of us is not to chase after happiness as if it were lost treasure, but to cultivate the courage to meet ourselves fully. In that meeting, we discover both our purpose and our joy. Happiness is often misunderstood. Many people believe it lies in the things they can touch, own, or display. They chase after money, beauty, recognition, or the comfort of approval from others, thinking that once these are achieved, a sense of lasting joy will follow. Yet what happens time and again is that even when these things are attained, the heart remains restless. The smile fades quickly, and the soul is still hungry for something deeper. The truth is that happiness is not something that can be secured by clinging to external objects or circumstances. It is not found in constant consumption or in the endless race to compare oneself with others. Instead, happiness emerges from a quiet alignment within, from a state where the inner world and the outer actions are no longer in conflict, but in harmony. This harmony cannot be reached by running away from what we dislike about ourselves. Each of us carries not only the qualities that shine brightly in the open, but also the hidden parts we prefer to ignore. There are fears, weaknesses, desires, and memories buried deep within, and often we pretend they do not exist. Yet ignoring them does not free us. In fact, the more we deny these parts, the more power they hold over us. They slip into our thoughts, our relationships, and our choices in ways we do not fully recognize. This is why so many remain unsettled, feeling a kind of inner division. But when we dare to face these shadows, when we accept them as pieces of the larger self, something remarkable happens. The war within begins to end, and the soul moves closer to wholeness. True happiness arises when the self no longer fights against itself. It is not the shallow joy that flickers and fades, but a deeper peace that comes from unity. When you can look inward without fear, when you no longer run from your own reflection, there is a sense of freedom. That freedom is happiness, the kind not easily shaken by the ups and downs of daily life. Purpose follows a similar law. It is often imagined as a grand plan waiting outside, as if written in the stars or handed down by society. People spend years trying to live up to roles or expectations, believing this is where purpose lies. But real purpose is not borrowed from others, nor can it be manufactured by copying someone else's path. Purpose is born within. It is discovered in the subtle voice that calls from deep inside, a voice that often speaks in dreams, symbols, or persistent longings that we cannot quite explain. When we learn to listen to this voice, to recognize its guidance, we begin to walk the path that is uniquely ours. Living with purpose does not mean solving every question of existence in one moment. It is a process of unfolding, like a flower that slowly opens to reveal its form. Every step taken in alignment with the inner self is a step closer to purpose. The more we honor this process, the more meaning we experience in our daily lives. And with meaning comes happiness, because life no longer feels random or hollow. It feels alive with direction. The truth, then, about happiness and purpose is that they are not trophies to be won or fixed destinations to arrive at. They are ongoing movements, processes of becoming, in which the self continuously grows and transforms. When you live authentically, when your actions reflect your deepest truths, happiness arises naturally. Purpose is no longer a distant question, because it is expressed in the way you live, in the way your being shapes the world around you. This understanding transforms how we face life. Instead of searching outside for constant validation, we begin to cultivate the courage to turn inward. This inner journey requires honesty and bravery. To meet ourselves fully means to welcome both the parts we are proud of and the parts we have hidden away. It means to allow the light and shadow to exist together without shame. Though difficult, this confrontation is liberating. For once we stop pretending, once we accept the totality of who we are, the energy once spent on denial becomes available for growth and creation. Happiness that arises from such self-acceptance cannot be shaken by external change. It is not fragile, depending on whether life is easy or hard. It is rooted in something far deeper, the realization that you are whole, that your worth is not measured by the world, but by your alignment with yourself. Purpose, likewise, ceases to feel like a burden or an unsolved puzzle. It becomes clear, not always as a detailed plan, but as a living truth, the task of becoming fully yourself. To live in this way is to understand that the treasure you seek was never outside you. It was within, waiting to be discovered. It was waiting for you to stop searching in all the wrong places and to begin listening to the wisdom already echoing in your depths. Once this is understood, happiness is no longer fleeting and purpose is no longer distant. Both are revealed as natural expressions of living authentically, courageously, and fully. In the end, happiness and purpose are not gifts handed from the outside world. They are the result of a lifelong dialogue with the inner self. They are the fruit of facing the shadows, embracing the light, and allowing the two to exist in harmony. When this inner alignment is achieved, life becomes meaningful, and joy flows not as a temporary spark, but as a steady flame. This is the truth. Happiness and purpose are not found, they are lived. Every human being carries within themselves a story much larger than what is shown to the world. On the surface, we present our polished faces, our strengths, and the qualities that win approval. Yet behind that surface exists another world, one that many prefer to ignore. This hidden part of us is what we often call the shadow. It is made up of all the aspects of our being that we deny, repress, or feel ashamed of. These may be impulses we do not want to admit, emotions we suppress because they are uncomfortable, or parts of our personality that do not fit the image we have built for others. Most people spend their lives running from this shadow, pretending it does not exist. But in truth, the shadow is not an enemy to be destroyed. It is an essential part of our wholeness. The more we refuse to face the shadow, the stronger its grip becomes. It expresses itself indirectly, slipping into our behavior, our judgments, and our relationships without our conscious awareness. For example, when someone harshly criticizes qualities in others, it is often because those same qualities are hidden within themselves. The anger they feel toward another is really a reflection of what they cannot accept in their own nature. This is the mechanism of projection, and it reveals how much power the shadow holds when left unacknowledged. It shapes our lives silently, keeping us from true freedom, and it creates inner conflict because the self is at war with itself. To walk toward wholeness, one must turn and face this hidden side. It is not an easy task, for the shadow holds what we fear. It contains the darker emotions, the selfish desires, the raw and instinctual drives that civilized life teaches us to bury. Yet within it also lie treasures. Creativity, passion, strength, and authenticity often hide there as well, waiting to be reclaimed. By confronting the shadow, we do not become darker people, we become more complete. We integrate the full spectrum of what we are, rather than living as a fragment. Imagine a tree. If it only accepted the branches and leaves that reach toward the sun, ignoring the roots that dive into the dark soil, it could not survive. The roots, though hidden underground, give the tree its stability and nourishment. In the same way, our shadow is like those roots. We may not want to look at them, but without them we cannot grow strong or reach toward the light. To deny them is to remain weak, shallow, and incomplete. To embrace them is to grow into wholeness. Facing the shadow is a process that demands courage and honesty. It requires us to ask uncomfortable questions. What parts of myself do I dislike? What emotions do I suppress? What am I most afraid of others discovering about me? Instead of pushing these questions away, the path forward is to sit with them and listen. Dreams often provide a doorway to this hidden realm, offering symbols and images that reveal the parts of ourselves that need recognition. When we allow these messages to surface, we begin to bridge the gap between the conscious and unconscious mind. As the shadow is integrated, something profound happens. The energy once trapped in denial and repression is released. What once controlled us unconsciously now becomes a source of strength and creativity. The person who was once consumed by envy may, through self-reflection, discover a genuine desire to create and achieve. The person who was once filled with anger may find the courage to stand up for what is just. By owning what was once rejected, life takes on a new depth and authenticity. Happiness, in this light, is no longer a fragile pursuit of pleasures or temporary joys. It becomes the harmony of a being who no longer hides from themselves. When the inner conflict eases, when the light and shadow stand side by side, the soul finds peace. There is a sense of freedom in knowing that you do not need to be perfect in order to be whole. The acceptance of your shadow does not diminish you, it completes you. This journey is not only personal but also collective. Entire societies have shadows, aspects of history or culture they refuse to acknowledge. Just as with individuals, these denied aspects resurface in destructive ways if ignored. But when faced with honesty, they can be healed, and a deeper wisdom can emerge. The individual who accepts their shadow contributes not only to their own growth, but also to the healing of the larger human story. The truth is that the shadow is not the enemy of happiness, but the gateway to it. As long as we deny parts of ourselves, happiness will remain shallow and fleeting. We may wear a mask of joy, but beneath it lies unrest. True happiness requires wholeness, and wholeness requires the shadow. By stepping into the dark, we allow the light to shine more fully. By embracing the hidden, we discover our fullest humanity. Thus, the path to real fulfillment is not about escaping what is uncomfortable, but about including it. To live a complete life, one must gather together all the pieces of the self, the noble and the flawed, the gentle and the fierce, the conscious and the unconscious. Only then does the self become unified. And in that unity, a profound happiness arises, not as a temporary spark, but as a lasting flame. Purpose is one of the deepest questions of human life. From the moment we become aware of ourselves, we begin to wonder why we are here and what our existence means. Many people try to find the answer outside of themselves. They look to society, to tradition, to authority figures, or to the expectations of family. They measure their worth through achievements, careers, or titles, believing that if they follow a certain path, they will eventually discover purpose. Yet, so often, after climbing the ladder and reaching the goals set by others, they are left with a quiet emptiness. The outer success does not silence the inner hunger. This reveals a simple truth. Real purpose cannot be handed to us from the outside. It cannot be imposed by culture, nor can it be bought with wealth. Purpose is something far more intimate and personal. It is something discovered, uncovered, and lived from within. Inside every person there is a guiding voice, though it often speaks quietly. It may show itself in the form of persistent dreams, deep fascinations, or the kind of longings that do not fade no matter how much we try to ignore them. These are not random feelings. They are signals pointing us toward what truly belongs to us. They are the whispers of the inner self, guiding us toward the life we are meant to live. But because the world is so loud, filled with distractions and pressures, many fail to hear this voice. They drown it out by following paths that seem safer, more accepted, or more rewarding in the short term. And yet, the soul is not satisfied until it is heard. To discover purpose requires listening. Not the kind of listening we give to others in conversation, but a deeper listening turned inward. It means creating space for silence, observing the patterns in our dreams, noticing what activities bring us alive, and paying attention to what constantly calls us, even when life pulls us in other directions. These subtle inner movements often hold more truth about our purpose than any external advice or command. The journey is not about becoming someone else, but about becoming more fully who we already are. This is why purpose cannot be compared. One person's calling may lead them to explore art, another to serve others, another to build or create, another to seek wisdom. Each path is valid, and each is necessary, for together they form the whole of human experience. Problems arise when we measure ourselves against others, thinking our purpose must look like theirs. Such comparisons blind us to the unique pattern of our own soul. To live with purpose is to honor the life that is uniquely ours, without distortion or imitation. It is also important to understand that purpose is not discovered all at once. It does not fall upon us in a single moment of clarity, like lightning from the sky. More often, it unfolds gradually, step by step, as we walk the path of authenticity. Each time we act in alignment with our true self, we move closer to it. Each choice that reflects our deepest values, rather than the expectations of others, strengthens it. Purpose is less a fixed destination, and more a process of becoming, a continual dialogue between the conscious self and the inner depths. There is a reason why so many people feel lost when they live disconnected from themselves. Without purpose, life feels random, empty, and exhausting. Work becomes mechanical, relationships shallow, and time heavy. But once purpose begins to awaken, everything changes. The same daily tasks that once felt meaningless begin to shine with significance. Challenges no longer feel like punishments, but as part of the path, carrying lessons needed for growth. even suffering takes on a different meaning, for it becomes a teacher that shapes us for what lies ahead. Purpose also brings strength. A person who knows why they are alive can endure what others cannot. They can withstand hardship because they are rooted in something deeper than comfort. They are fueled by meaning, and meaning gives resilience. This is why those who live with a sense of purpose often radiate a calm, grounded energy. They are not easily shaken by the noise of the world, because their direction comes from within, not from outside circumstances. The discovery of purpose is also inseparable from happiness. When you live a life that is not yours, happiness will always escape you. It may appear in brief moments, but it will never last, because deep down you know you are not aligned with your truth. But when you live according to your purpose, even in small steps, a deep contentment arises. Happiness, then, is not something you chase. It is a byproduct of living your purpose. It grows naturally when your life reflects your soul. It must be remembered, however, that listening to purpose requires courage. The inner voice often asks us to walk paths that are unfamiliar or unpopular. It may call us away from comfort, from certainty, from the approval of others. To follow it is to risk misunderstanding, to stand apart, and sometimes to begin again. Yet what is the alternative? To silence the voice is to betray oneself, and such betrayal is the greatest source of unhappiness. It is far better to walk the authentic path, even if it is difficult, than to live a life that is not truly your own. The truth about purpose, then, is that it cannot be taught or imposed. It is something each individual must discover for themselves, through honest reflection, through the courage to face their inner voice, and through the willingness to live in harmony with it. Purpose is not somewhere outside, waiting in the distance. It has been within you all along, waiting to be heard. When you finally listen, when you begin to live in accordance with it, life itself becomes meaningful. The confusion lifts, happiness deepens, and existence transforms into a journey of becoming who you were always meant to be. Happiness and purpose are often imagined as final destinations, as if one day we will arrive at a perfect place where all struggles end, where life becomes smooth, and where every question is answered. People search tirelessly for that moment, believing it will come after success, after recognition, after wealth, or after some great achievement. Yet this belief creates a deep illusion. It sets the mind chasing a horizon that will always move further away. The more we pursue happiness as a prize, the more it escapes us. The more we demand purpose as a complete answer, the more we feel lost. The truth is that happiness and purpose are not destinations at all. They are living processes, continuous movements of growth and transformation that unfold throughout our lives. When we look at happiness as something final, we trap ourselves in disappointment. Life is not static. It is a constant flow of change. Circumstances shift, relationships evolve, and seasons pass. If happiness were dependent on a perfect condition, it could never last. But when we see happiness as a process, as something that flows from moment to moment, we begin to understand its real nature. It is not a treasure buried at the end of the road, but a state of being that emerges when we live authentically in each step we take. Happiness is created in the act of becoming, not in reaching a final state. The same is true for purpose. Many people think of purpose as a single grand mission, fixed and unchanging, written for them somewhere in the universe. They become frustrated when they cannot define it, or when their life does not neatly fit into that idea. But purpose, like happiness, is alive. It grows as we grow. It deepens as we deepen. What felt like our purpose at one stage of life may evolve into something new as we expand in awareness. This does not mean we were wrong before. it means we are continuing the process of becoming. Purpose is not a single moment of revelation, but an ongoing dialogue with the self, unfolding like a story whose chapters reveal themselves one after the other. Understanding happiness and purpose as processes frees us from the pressure of perfection. We no longer need to demand that life provide us with complete answers right now. Instead, we learn to walk step by step, trusting that each stage of our journey contributes to the whole. In this way, every experience, even pain and failure, becomes meaningful. Challenges are no longer interruptions to our purpose. They are part of the shaping process. Difficulties do not cancel happiness. They refine our understanding of it, teaching us resilience, compassion, and depth. The process view also teaches patience. Too often, people grow anxious because they cannot see their purpose clearly, or because their happiness seems distant. But purpose cannot be rushed, and happiness cannot be forced. Just as a seed takes time to grow into a tree, so too does the inner self need time to reveal its direction. By living each day consciously and authentically, we participate in the process. With time, the pieces begin to align, and the larger picture becomes clearer. It is important to remember that even the smallest moments matter. Happiness is not only found in great achievements, but also in simple experiences. A meaningful conversation, the act of creating something, the beauty of nature, or the quiet satisfaction of staying true to oneself. Likewise, purpose is not always about grand gestures. It can be found in the daily commitment to live honestly, to nurture others, to grow, and to contribute in ways that align with one's inner truth. When seen this way, happiness and purpose are woven into the very fabric of daily life, rather than placed on a distant pedestal. This perspective changes how we live. Instead of anxiously waiting for some future arrival, we begin to embrace the present moment as part of the journey. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to grow closer to wholeness. Each joy becomes a reminder that happiness is already here when we live authentically. Purpose becomes less about having a perfect plan and more about living with intention and awareness. Life becomes meaningful not because everything is solved, but because everything is lived fully. There is also a deeper wisdom hidden in this truth. If happiness and purpose were fixed destinations, life would quickly lose its vitality. Once achieved, there would be nothing left to seek, nothing left to learn, and no reason to grow. It is the very process of striving, learning, and unfolding that gives life its richness. The unknown, the becoming, the transformation. These are not obstacles to happiness and purpose, but their very essence. We are not here to arrive once and for all. We are here to grow endlessly into the fullness of who we are. This realization brings freedom. We no longer fear being lost, for being in process means we are exactly where we should be. We no longer feel that happiness is out of reach, for it is already present in each authentic step. We no longer demand that purpose appear fully formed, for we understand that it is revealed gradually as we live. The weight of expectation lifts, replaced by a quiet trust in the unfolding of life. The truth about happiness and purpose is that they are alive within us at every moment, not waiting in the distance. They are not end points, but companions on the journey, shaping and reshaping themselves as we evolve. To embrace them is not to chase after some distant prize, but to live consciously here and now, welcoming the process of becoming. When we do this, happiness is no longer fragile, purpose no longer uncertain. Both become part of the rhythm of life, flowing naturally as we continue to grow. To live authentically is to live in harmony with one's deepest truth. It is to strip away the masks we wear, the roles we perform for others, and the false identities we adopt to gain acceptance. Authenticity does not mean perfection, nor does it mean revealing every detail of oneself without discretion. It means being true to the essence of who we are, allowing our inner reality to guide our outer life. It is the alignment of thought, feeling, and action so that what we show to the world reflects what we truly are within. Without authenticity, both happiness and purpose remain out of reach, for they cannot exist in a life built on illusion. From early childhood, we are shaped by expectations. Parents, teachers, peers, and society at large all send messages about who we should be. We learn to behave in ways that win approval and suppress parts of ourselves that are judged or criticized. Slowly, a false self begins to form, a mask designed to protect us from rejection. While this mask helps us fit in, it distances us from our true nature. Many grow into adulthood without realizing how much of their lives are lived in service to this false image. They chase careers that do not align with their passions, remain in relationships that stifle their growth, and silence the voice within that longs for expression. The cost of inauthenticity is heavy. When we live a life that does not belong to us, even success feels empty. Outwardly we may appear to thrive, but inwardly we feel a quiet despair, a sense that something essential is missing. This inner conflict drains us, for the soul knows when it is being denied. The unhappiness that arises from such denial cannot be cured by external pleasures. It lingers until we return to the truth of who we are. Authenticity requires courage because it often means standing apart from the crowd. The world values conformity, and to live authentically is to risk misunderstanding, criticism, or even rejection. But the alternative, betraying oneself for acceptance, is far more painful in the long run. When you silence your inner voice, you lose the very essence that makes life meaningful. No amount of approval from others can compensate for the loss of your own truth. To walk the path of authenticity is to begin listening inwardly. It means paying attention to the quiet signals of the soul, the passions that ignite you, the dreams that return again and again, the values that resonate deeply, and the discomfort you feel when you stray from them. These signals are guideposts, pointing you toward a life that reflects your true self. The more you honor them, the stronger they become, and the more your life aligns with who you really are. When you begin to live authentically, happiness follows naturally. This happiness is not based on circumstances, but on integrity. It comes from the peace of knowing that your outer life reflects your inner reality. Even in times of struggle, there is strength in authenticity, for you know that you are walking your own path rather than one forced upon you. This sense of alignment creates resilience, because you are no longer torn between who you are and who you pretend to be. Purpose, too, is inseparable from authenticity. Your unique purpose cannot be discovered while living as someone else. It reveals itself only when you live honestly, when your choices reflect your own truth rather than borrowed expectations. Authenticity clears away the noise of the world so that the inner voice can be heard. In this way, purpose is not something added from outside, but something uncovered from within. The more authentic you become, the more your purpose shines clearly. It is also important to understand that authenticity is not about rigidly clinging to one identity. It is about living truthfully in each moment, allowing yourself to grow and change without fear. Authenticity embraces both constancy and transformation. You are not bound to remain who you were yesterday if today you discover a deeper truth. To live authentically is to give yourself permission to evolve while staying faithful to the essence of who you are. This journey is not easy, but it is liberating. Each step toward authenticity feels like reclaiming a lost part of the self. The energy once spent on pretending, on maintaining masks, is released for creativity, love, and genuine living. Relationships deepen, for authenticity invites others to show their true selves as well. Work becomes meaningful, for it expresses the talents and passions that truly belong to you. Life as a whole becomes lighter, freer, and filled with purpose. The truth is that authenticity is the foundation upon which happiness and purpose rest. Without it, both are fragile illusions. With it, they become steady and lasting. Authenticity does not mean that life will be without pain, but it ensures that even pain carries meaning, because it belongs to a path that is truly yours. It transforms suffering into growth and challenges into opportunities for deeper self-discovery. To live authentically, then, is not simply a choice. It is a necessity for a life of depth and fulfillment. It asks us to be brave, to remove the masks, to face the fear of rejection, and to step into the world as we truly are. And though the path may at times be lonely, it is also the path to genuine freedom. For only when we are true to ourselves can we find the happiness and purpose that make life worth living. The journey toward freedom begins not in the outer world, but in the depths of the self. Many people imagine freedom as the ability to do whatever they desire, to move without restriction, to accumulate wealth, or to achieve independence from others. While these things may create a form of external freedom, they do not address the deeper prison in which many live. This inner prison is built from fear, denial, and avoidance of the truth within. Until we confront ourselves fully, we remain bound by chains we cannot see. Real freedom arises only when we turn inward, face all that we are, and embrace both the light and the shadow. Self-confrontation is often avoided because it is uncomfortable. To look honestly at oneself means acknowledging the parts we wish to hide. It requires us to see our weaknesses, our selfish impulses, our envy, anger, and insecurities. It forces us to admit the lies we tell ourselves and the masks we wear for others. Most people prefer distraction. They drown themselves in work, entertainment, or constant busyness to avoid the silence in which these truths become clear. But avoidance does not erase what is hidden. On the contrary, the more we deny these parts of ourselves, the stronger they grow in the unconscious, shaping our lives in ways we do not understand. The act of self-confrontation is not about judgment or condemnation. It is about honesty. It is about standing before the mirror of the soul without turning away. This process requires courage, for it brings us face to face with the aspects of ourselves that do not fit our self-image. Yet paradoxically, the very act of facing these parts is what frees us. Once the hidden is brought to light, it loses its power to control us. What was once a secret burden becomes integrated into the whole of who we are. Consider the shadow. Every person carries within them qualities that they reject or suppress. Perhaps it is a deep anger, a longing for recognition, or a fear of inadequacy. Left unacknowledged, these qualities do not disappear. They manifest as projections onto others, as destructive behaviors, or as inner restlessness. But when we confront them directly, we begin to see that they are not monsters, but parts of ourselves that need understanding. Anger, once integrated, becomes the strength to set boundaries. Fear, once faced, becomes the wisdom to act with care. Even envy, when confronted, can point us toward desires we need to honor. Through self-confrontation, the energy trapped in denial becomes available for growth. Freedom emerges in this process because we are no longer ruled by unconscious forces. Instead of being pushed around by hidden emotions and unresolved conflicts, we gain awareness and choice. We begin to live consciously rather than reactively. Our actions become aligned with our true self, not with the illusions we created to avoid pain. This alignment brings a deep sense of liberation, for nothing is more exhausting than living at war with oneself. Once the war ends, the soul breathes freely. This inner freedom is far more valuable than external freedom. A person may have wealth, status, or independence, but still feel trapped inside, still feel haunted by insecurities or unresolved wounds. Another person may live with few possessions but feel expansive and at peace because they have faced themselves honestly. True freedom is not measured by what surrounds us, but by the harmony we create within. Self-confrontation also deepens our relationships. When we avoid our own flaws, we project them onto others, blaming them for qualities we cannot accept in ourselves. This creates conflict and misunderstanding. But when we have faced these parts within, we approach others with greater compassion. We no longer need to judge harshly, for we recognize our shared humanity. We no longer demand perfection, for we have accepted imperfection in ourselves. This honesty brings authenticity into relationships, allowing real connection to grow. The path of self-confrontation is not a single moment, but a lifelong practice. Each stage of life brings new challenges and reveals new aspects of the self. To live freely is to remain open to this ongoing process, to continually meet ourselves with honesty and courage. It is a path that requires humility, for there is always more to discover, always deeper truths to face. But it is also a path of great reward, for with each step we shed another layer of illusion and gain another measure of freedom. Happiness, too, is born from this freedom. As long as we deny parts of ourselves, happiness will remain fragile. We may experience moments of joy, but beneath them lies tension, the fear that our hidden truths will be exposed. When we embrace ourselves fully, this fear dissolves. Happiness becomes steady, rooted in self-acceptance. It is no longer dependent on circumstances, but flows from the peace of living without pretense. Purpose is also clarified through self-confrontation. When we are honest about our desires, our values, and our inner calling, we can no longer live according to roles imposed by others. We are compelled to live authentically, to follow the path that is truly ours. Purpose ceases to be an abstract question and becomes a lived reality. It is discovered not in avoiding the self, but in facing it completely. The truth about freedom is simple but profound. It is not found in escape, but in encounter. It is not gained by running away from who we are, but by meeting ourselves in full. Every fear faced, every shadow embraced, every truth acknowledged loosens the chains that bind us. To confront oneself is to step into light. To accept oneself is to step into freedom. Thus, the task before us is not to build a perfect image or to run from imperfection, but to meet ourselves as we are. In that meeting lies liberation, in that courage lies peace, and in that acceptance lies the freedom that makes happiness and purpose possible.